This is a passing show with Hal Gill, your host, National Press Club Building, 529 14th Street, Northwest. You can see the Washington Monument peeking up above one of our many federal buildings. Across the way, forget what it is. This is the Willard Hotel, and we're next to the J.W. Marriott Hotel. Willard is historically, I think it's been rebuilt since, but was where a hotel stood. It had a lobby in it where Ulysses S. Grant used to like smoke cigars. That's where you get the name lobbyist, because people would court him much as they could. There's the entrance to the Marriott. Don't know really what's going on there. One more shower. Got a few of those. I guess I could be one. Shouting on these airwaves. We've got several joining us. Pancho Escobar's back. Geraldine, Dory Tunstall, and Micah. Wedding. Good to have you all. This is a little bit of who, what, when, and where here in Washington, D.C. Not sure exactly which way I want to go. Well, let's go this way. I think I'm going to sort of wind my way towards home. I don't have that much power. Over 50%. 54. And I just visited my wife up in her office is on the 5th floor of the National Press Building at the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. 10 minutes or so, took up her time, dropping in to see how she was doing. She's got a big meeting this afternoon with some of her colleagues and her boss, the COO, Liz. She seems very nice. She's had a real time. But anyhow, not a medical thing. Can't go into it. HIPAA rules.
On to the airport.
Anyway,
All right. So
Willard Hotel, the Intercontinental, is where a film, one of those Marvel Comics films, was shot on the steps of the Willard over here. And Gary Sandling, playing a senator, was coming down these steps, consulting with one of the Hydra agents. And,
but you know something right?
you know, you never know. Yeah, he was coming down these steps, and the scene from The Winter Soldier, talking about how he was having difficulty with somebody he was having an affair with. And that's the way it goes. Washington, D.C. Wind my way around. Here's the Occidental. Nice little restaurant. And next to that, still another Hotel Washington. Different hotel. There's its patio. Folks sitting out with their coffee. Yeah. So who, what, when, and where in Washington, D.C.? We are all tourists here after a while. Though I'm a resident. I'm going to get across on this bike, so I'm going to walk this one instead. Doesn't appear to be anything coming right away. Here's the trolley. Walking against the light. And what was I saying? Oh, yeah. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Right after that, there's a scene in which the Falcon, Sam, threatens the Hydra agent with extermination if he didn't, go right away with him and Captain America and the Black Widow. Strange film. Anyway, all shot in here, and with all this backdrop of the nation's capital, how the equivalent of Homeland Security SHIELD is up to no good, developing helicarriers or a network to exterminate enemies of Hydra. Tricky stuff. Just an algorithm. And, these algorithms, they can pick up our signals and transmit details about what we're up to and what we might get up to. Predictive analysis. I think I might actually challenge some of these AI agents that are available with doing some predictive analysis on what the odds are of a good outcome on different strategies that one could take. I don't know, man. It's what it is. I'm going to walk over this way. Let's actually take this direction. Seems safe. Sabret. They're on a roll. I thought about looking up exactly what ingredients go into Sabret's all beef kosher hot dogs because I like them. I'm not sure I should. Probably the preservatives are not a good idea for the human diet. And when you think about it, meat eating generally is not in our best interest. Vegetarianism is. Some of these things that we're doing these days, like Impossible Burgers and stuff, have real downsides to them in terms of how they're created. You have to be more mindful, more informed. Just keep in mind that we're all part of this passing show. I was reading a book, or actually scanning one called Airborne recently, about all the life that's in every breath of air. And Michael Chabon was talking about argon and how molecules of argon have passed through everybody's lungs at some time or another. It's like 1% of the atmosphere is argon. Being a noble gas, it doesn't do anything. It just floats around. It's also neon and helium and all those noble gases don't interact with other things. Must be nice. We interact quite a bit. Hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, calcium. All those elements going into us. And traces of copper, zinc, molybdenum. Oh, gosh. What else do I know about boron? Lithium. Trying to go through all my elements in my head. 6 is carbon, 7 is nitrogen, 8 is oxygen, 9, number 9. What's element number 9? I don't know. Have to look it up. Well, easily found out. That's one of the great things. Back in the day, you'd have to consult a book. You remember books? I have a lot of books. I don't consult them that often. I spend more time consulting whenever someone's scribbling into a Substack or recording or whatever. Oh, this is the ellipse. Let's go. Let's go. Can walk around it. What is this? What is this here? This is weird. I think I'd like to take a couple of steps in that direction. Find out what that is. The National Christmas Tree. Transplanted October 11, 1978. Christmas Pageant of Peace Committee. It's not there anymore. I guess they just erect it every time instead of planting it. I don't know. Weird. Secret Service in place. It's about as close as we can get to the White House there. A Truman balcony. 2nd floor.
Wait, I thought you said I was off. Yeah, no. Whatever you get.
Starting point of the first transcontinental motor convoy over the Lincoln Highway.
$5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's the White House. I don't know if Trump's in house right now, but I was just over at the National Press Club watching the screens down in the lobby as I was leaving and as I was coming in. I noticed that CNN and MSNBC are really focused right now on primarily the Epstein files. Still quite a distraction. This is a lot like the Clinton presidency, remember? The Monica Lewinsky thing? Sure, he's guilty as sin. But, I mean, what's really important here? What should our Congress people and government officials be focused on? Yes, criminal behavior on the part of the president. I mean, it's been settled in the court of law that he's a felon. Of course, you also have the aspect of the weaponization of the law, but doesn't mean he's a good man. Doesn't mean he's like on the up and up in any way, shape, or form. However, begs the question: how the heck? It's like the Penguin getting to be mayor of Gotham City. Anyway, I just have to shake my head and realize that I have a part in this. I have a part in this because I supported Bernie against Hillary down to the wire and beyond. I was a Bernie supporter. Now I'm not. I'm not a fan. I'm thinking that I've been duped. And I can admit that I've been duped. Yeah. The only person of integrity I've seen in this whole gamut is now not even that. So, I don't know. I don't agree with everything that anybody says. Not so contrarian, though, not to see that they may have a perspective to which I'm not privy. So I'll listen. I'll admit new information. I don't want to be so open minded, though, that my brain falls out, as they say. Right? It's pretty easy for one's brain to fall out and just become, oh, this is the way it is. And ain't no isser, as my grandmother used to say. I love that phrase, by the way. I think she invented it. I don't think anybody else has ever said it. My mother's still got it in her mind. One of the few things left, it seems, poor thing. And my mother could tell you the accession number of any object in the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation collections just by pointing at the object. She had that kind of mind. And now cognitive decline has taken its toll. And she doesn't remember when I visit. Later in the afternoon when I get home and I call her, and she said, well, what have you been up to? And I said, well, I was visiting you, Mom. I took you to lunch. And 3 or 4 hours, she forgets. And, but she lives in the moment now. She's very, I think, serene is what I picked up last time I visited her. She was very grateful for the visit. She was lovely. And she can be. Oh, my goodness, listen to that. And a muffler. I really shouldn't be allowed. That's high decibel. Anyway, noise damage. So let's see. I was talking about that. I was talking about memory. I was talking about that's the way it is, and there ain't no isser. There's nothing more is than that. That's how my grandmother from Cresswell, North Carolina, used to phrase it. She was raised down there. Father been postmaster, as I recall. Charlie Aston. Apparently had a facial cancer. He smoked cigars and oh wow. My mother used to sit on his lap for a nickel. But Charlie lost his son. He was never quite the same after his son died, Uncle Lloyd, in Iwo Jima. Well, it landed with the Marines, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check the facts on that. And he was one of the casualties. That invasion of that island. You think we could have negotiated something with the Japanese to maintain peace, but they didn't want that. At some level or another, we wanted to do in the Japanese a race war. Jim Curtis used to tell me that. That was George M. Curtis III, historian at Hanover College, many years. Also, Bozeman, Montana. Had 5 daughters, as I recall. I think he was trying for a son, but 5 daughters. Jessica was about my age. Became first girlfriend of my old buddy Greg Chabar, then later married Kathy Barnhart. They have kids. Really happy together, I think. And the years down the road, Greg, major in the Marines, was in the Gulf War. Think we could have negotiated that? I don't know. The invasion of Kuwait. We felt so righteous with our coalition and Desert Storm and the way in which we vanquished the Republican Guards. My friend from Fife and Drum, bass drummer on an artillery team for the Marines, ended up having problems from the oil fires in Kuwait, up to his respiratory system, recurrent pneumonia. Poor guy. Then there's another friend of mine who flew Harriers for the Marines, David Bostine, was captain. Forget his call sign, but he was trucking bombs and laying them down. No telling how many people he splattered with those. And then there's Mike Yankovic, who flew off of the Midway in FA-18. Mike's the brother-in-law of Bruce Hornsby. I didn't realize that until just recently. So, small world. Bruce, of course, of Williamsburg. So we're all connected. Williamsburg, where in 1776, Richard Henry Lee secured a move for independence. These colonies are and ought to be free and independent states. And all allegiance between them and the British Crown is and ought to be totally dissolved. Say 1776, the musical, 1972. And William Daniels, he's still with us, plays in that as John Adams. This is what resulted from all that. Williamsburg's House of Burgesses moving for independence, getting the colonies in general to vote on the subject, including Pennsylvania, which went to a poll of the delegation, which James Wilson elected to not side with John Dickinson, but to side with the cause of independence. And they debated it, and they had a declaration, and Jefferson wrote it. And you can say what you will about that, but I understand NPR lately has been attaching a trigger warning to this, and I'm a little aghast at that. Just a little. Just a little. I did not know that. I think it was Matt Taibbi turned me on to that information. The so-called journalist, as he was called, I think by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now, Taibbi is not a so-called journalist. That was during the Twitter files. Do you all remember that? If you didn't catch it, you should go back and look at the testimony in front of Congress. And just watch America This Week with Walter Kern, who wrote Up in the Air, among other things. Walter and Matt every week go over the news and they give their assessments. They're smart men. Now, you may not agree with everything they say. But that's okay. That's part of our American tradition. Debate. Inform ourselves. Listen to dissident voices. And, Matt, God bless him, is a left-leaning liberal, for God's sakes. And he's been excoriated by the very left he was supporting for basically unmasking the, what does he call it? The censorship industrial complex. These platforms, Facebook, Google, Twitter, before it was purchased by Elon Musk, actively censoring voices that were telling the truth about things like Hunter's laptop. 51 intelligence officers said it had the marks of a Russian cyber, hoax kind of thing. Not at all accurate, fake news, work of moose and squirrel. But it turns out it was not fake. Now, Hunter apparently just had a meltdown at his fellow Democrats about the way his dad was treated. And God bless Joe. I mean, he tried so hard. I was just watching a front line about him and the whole ride up there, getting to be a senator, having his wife and baby daughter killed and his two sons badly injured by a semi broadsiding their station wagon. Poor guy. Oh my God. My heart goes out to Joe in a lot of ways. And it goes out to Hunter too. I mean, Hunter has not had it easy. He was in the shadow of Bo the whole time. He was the favored son. And then Bo, of course, poor guy, dies. Bo and Tulsi were friends, are now director of national intelligence, who's pulled the covers, folks, on the whole situation in 2016, December, as we were running up to the inauguration of Trump. That led to his whole first years being shadowed by this Russia investigation. Now, demonizing Russia. Gotta have an enemy. Gotta have a bad guy. It's all fake news. Work of moose and squirrel. Well, tell you, Boris and Natasha might have been on the up and up. I don't know. Chaos, right? Chaos and get smart and control. Well, I am believing in chaos more and more. It isn't without order. It's just not predictable because of all the different things that go into it. All things working together. A young man in uniforms. Bless him for his service, but I tell you what, it'd be good if we didn't make more wounded veterans. Well, it looks like they're cleaning it now. Nevada, Colorado, Kansas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Everyone contributed soldiers. My father's uncles all served in one capacity or another. My grandfather was in the Navy. My Uncle Gray in the Army. Landed at Anzio. Ended up sharing a foxhole with a corpse of a German soldier. So it goes. I'm going to walk around down here. Do the loop. I'm up the other side. I'll cut across. Go over to the Signers Island. And head back home then. I'm really running out of power eventually. Oh, it's good to have 14 of you along on the passing show so far. I'm sure some people are coming and going, but I'm keeping a running monologue about history. Virginia. Don't forget Virginia, Benji. Oh, Richard, how could I? He says in 1776. The heroism of our own troops was matched by that of the armed forces of the nations that fought by our side. They absorbed the blows and they shared to the ultimate destruction of the enemy. Harry S. Truman. There's the Lincoln Memorial up there. These are the price of freedom part of the memorial. Freedom Wall has 4,048 gold stars. Each gold star represents 100 American service personnel who died or remained missing in the war. 405,399 American dead and missing in World War II are second only to the loss of more than 620,000 Americans during our Civil War. Now, there were those people who were called for a civil war. We should not have any wars if we can avoid it. We can negotiate. We've got executive functions. We can live under the rule of law. And we are, believe it or not. Power washing is underway up here. So we have to be conscious of that. Water falling. Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. I'm so glad this monument finally went up. It took a long time before this was erected. And they're taking care of it over here. Mid-Atlantic Power Washing Incorporated. 410-266-6866. Maryland based. 410 being Annapolis area code. I know that from my sister being there for a while. Naval Institute and other places along the way. Can I get past here? Can I make my exit? I think so. For ground hazards and overspray. I will watch for that. Okay, so we have made it around, and now we're going to cut back. There's a World War II memorial building over there as well for information. And I'm going to cut back this way, walk along the bottom of the reflecting pool. If you saw Forrest Gump, you'll recognize the reflecting pool. He comes down off of the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and goes splashing into it to embrace Jenny. It was a nice scene. As he was unwittingly brought to the microphone by Abby Hoffman or somebody like him. Speak at a anti-war rally. It's taking in the present moment, the ducks, the people. Everyone is beautiful in their own ways, the song goes. Something to contemplate. The Atlantic Theater, the Pacific Theater, the World War. 1945, it wraps up with a bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the surrender in Tokyo Bay on the deck of the USS Missouri, where Douglas MacArthur, who became the occupation of Japan's head guy. I got to think about Douglas MacArthur from time to time and the work he did down there in the bonus army after World War I, taking those Hoovervilles and those shanty towns and demolish them. Cavalry. Yeah. The awful things we've had to do with each other, the inhumanity with which we have treated each other, the kind of world we have constructed through our choices, one after the other. I'm going to go up to this little Prayer for the Nation memorial. It's pretty small. Looks like it's not actually populated by anybody yet. This morning, 9:58 a.m. it is. And I've been walking a while. It's good to walk. Prayer for the Nation. Let's read it, shall we? D-Day, June 6, 1944. My fellow Americans, last night when I spoke with you about the fall of Rome, I knew at that moment that troops of the United States and our allies were crossing the Channel in another and greater operation. It has come to pass with success thus far, and so in this poignant hour, I ask you to join me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness to their fate. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. The enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tried by night and by day without rest till the victory is won. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame, and souls will be shaken with the violences of war. These are men lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people. They yearn but for the end of battle, for their return to the haven of home. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom. And for us at home, fathers, mothers, children's wives, sisters, and brothers of brave men overseas, whose thoughts and prayers are ever with them, help us, Almighty God, to rededicate ourselves in renewed faith in Thee in this hour of great sacrifice. Many people have urged that I call the nation into a single day of special prayer. But because the road is long and the desire is great, I ask that our people devote themselves in continuance of prayer. As we rise to each new day, and again when each day is spent, let words of prayer be on our lips, invoking Thy help to our efforts. Give us strength to strengthen our daily tasks, to redouble the contributions we make in this physical and material support of our armed forces, and let our hearts be stout to wait out the long travail, to bear sorrows that may come, to impart our courage unto our sons wherever they may be. And, O Lord, give us faith. Give us faith in Thee, faith in our sons, faith in each other, faith in our united crusade. Let not the keenness of our spirit ever be dulled. Let not the impacts of temporary events, of temporal matters, of but fleeting moments, let not these deter us in our unconquerable purpose. With Thy blessing we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Help us to conquer the apostles of greed and racial arrogancies. Lead us to the saving of our country, and with our sister nations into a world unity that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest toil. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen. Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the United States, June 6, 1944. That was worth doing. And on it goes. The passing show. Unworthy men. You know, we've got war and rumors of war going on now. Slaughter of innocents and profusion. And we stand by and let it happen. People have the power, it's said, but the people are not united. People are divided. And who's dividing them? The people. Allowing themselves to be divided. I don't think there's much I can do about that except to advocate unity and diversity and continue without ceasing, so long as breath be in my body, to transmit the signal through the noise. We collectively have the ability to transform this world into one that we'll be proud to leave to our descendants. Will we? It's a good question. I have my doubts. Based on my experience, having been born just a little over 18 years after D-Day. In fact, just about 18 and 8 months. No, 7. 18 and 7 months. And a little less than that. Anyway, who cares? I was born a little over 18 years, 18 and a half years after D-Day in Williamsburg, Virginia, the home of our liberty in many ways. If you didn't know that, that's where it started, with Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, all cutting their teeth in politics. There, our first 4 of our 5 presidents. And, you can say what you will, that their shortcomings been born into that context of that world at that time. And they had some. However, they were men of particular character and integrity. And that's what we need in this country. We need more people of integrity, more people who are doing service above self, who put people above profits. You find on bumper sticker of my Ford Escape Hybrid, those 2 bumper stickers from the campaign of a young woman from Hawaii for president during the 2020 run. She's the first woman of color to have won any delegates in a presidential primary for the Democrats sent Shirley Chisholm in 1972. And you know what they did with that information? That a woman had won delegates in a presidential primary. She was ignored. She was silenced. She was passed over. And what did she advocate for? Peace, an end to regime change wars, an end to the use of our servicemen and women and the service of agendas that are not in the interest of the nation or its safety, but make us less safe. She decided to run, this young woman from Hawaii, originally Samoan, when there was a false alarm in Hawaii. Incoming ballistic missiles from North Korea. This is not a drill. Seek shelter. There was no shelter. There is no shelter. And it could have just as well been real as it was actually a glitch in the warning system. A father lowered his daughter into a sewer in hopes of saving her life from an incipient nuclear attack, but with very little hope of doing so. I got to bend over and kiss your ass goodbye. And that was where they were. They really thought that was it. They didn't know it was a false alarm for a while. She decided to run for president at that point. She had supported Bernie to the point where she took her position as the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee and renounced it when she saw what was being run to crown the, how should I say it, the one they thought should be anointed as our candidate and was anointed, and then promptly lost the election to the one we have in the White House now. We haven't had anyone go 12 years since Roosevelt. Admittedly, he was not in office during the term that Biden was in. God bless Joe Biden. But Biden showed himself to be unworthy of that task or unequal to it, even in the campaign, yet we ignored it. Even his own wife said, you may just have to swallow a little and vote for Joe. You got to look at who's going to win. You may not agree with him. He may not have the best policies on this, that, the other thing, but you got to swallow a little and vote for Joe. Jill said that. It's a matter of record. It's amazing. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 states of the United States of America. And for the support of the declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And a lot of these men lost lives, fortunes, their sacred honor they retained. James Wilson, lawyer, Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Robert Morris, merchant of Philadelphia. Benjamin Franklin, statesman from Philadelphia. John Morton, surveyor of Ridley. We have Thomas McKean, Newcastle, Delaware. Caesar Rodney, a planter in Dover, Delaware. George Reed, lawyer in Newcastle. And then we have William Pecka, a lawyer in Annapolis. Thomas Stone, a lawyer in Charles County. Samuel Chase, a lawyer in Annapolis. Charles Carroll of Carrollton, landowner of Howard County. We have Francis Lightfoot Lee, planter of Richmond County. Thomas Nelson Jr., planter of Yorktown. Commander, as it turned out, of the unit my great-great-great-great-grandfather fought in at Yorktown. He was sick, and Matt Anthony Wayne was his interim commander. They were shelling Thomas Nelson Jr.'s house at the time. Thomas Jefferson, lawyer of Albemarle County. Richard Henry Lee, planter, Westmoreland County. Carter Braxton, a planter of King William County. Benjamin Harrison, a planter of Charles City County, the native county of Jones Gill as well. George Wythe, lawyer of Williamsburg, my hometown. William Cooper, lawyer of Wilmington. And Joseph Hughes, merchant of Edenton, just across the Sound, the Albemarle Sound, where Blackbeard was captured and killed. And John Penn, a lawyer of Stouffville, Edenton, right across the Sound from Washington County, where my mother was born and raised, and my family was there in the 1770s, I expect, if not certainly thereafter. Edward Rutledge, lawyer of Charlestown. Thomas Lynch, a planter of St. James Parish. Thomas Hayward Jr., a lawyer of St. Helena Parish. Arthur Middleton, planter, St. Andrews Parish. George Walton, lawyer of Savannah. Lyman Hall, physician of Midway. Button Gwinnett, planter, St. Catherine's Island. On the other side, we have George Ross, a lawyer of Lancaster. Benjamin Rush, a physician of Philadelphia. George Clymer, merchant of Philadelphia. George Taylor, ironmaster of Easton. James Smith, lawyer of York. Richard Stockton, lawyer of Princeton. John Witherspoon, clergy of Princeton. John Hart, farmer of Hopewell. Francis Hopkinson, writer of Bordentown. And Abraham Clark, politician of Elizabethtown. Lewis Morris, a landowner of Morrisania. Francis Lewis, merchant of Whitestone. William Floyd, a farmer of Brookhaven. Philip Livingston, merchant of New York City. William Williams, merchant of Lebanon. Roger Sherman, judge of New Haven. Oliver Wolcott, judge of Litchfield. And Samuel Huntington, judge of Norwich. William Ellery, lawyer of Newport. Stephen Hopkins, merchant of Providence. Samuel Adams, politician of Boston. Robert Treat Payne, lawyer of Taunton. John Adams, lawyer of Braintree. Elbridge Gerry, merchant of Marblehead. John Hancock, merchant of Boston. Matthew Thornton, physician of Londonderry. Josiah Bartlett, physician of Kingston. And then finally, William Whipple, merchant of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And Elbridge Gerry, interestingly enough to me, in Massachusetts at Marblehead, gave us the term gerrymandering, which there's a lot of activity asking for that. This is their monument, the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Blackbirds abound in the neighborhood. Might see one a little later. But for now, I'm walking back, thinking about heading back up because I'm probably running pretty low on power. I am down to 31%. I think I can make it back up 21st Street. And what else do I want to say about that? What else, indeed? I connected back in 2004 or 5, that time period when I was living over in a townhouse, a row house that's at 37 16th Street Northeast. I came down to the mall and over near the merry-go-round, I ran into Kate Cherry, a direct descendant of Elbridge Gerry, for whom we named gerrymandering. Oh, wow. What a life, We're all woven in so tightly together. The chances of Kate, an art historian, being there. She worked for a while in Baltimore up at, what's that museum called? Is it going to come back to me? It's not coming back to me right now. There's a pretty nice one. And it has a great collection, particularly medieval stuff. And she was a medieval art historian. I kind of love her. I thought she was really cool. We didn't get anywhere really together, but, it was fun. Enjoyed it. We stayed in touch for a while, too. I don't know if I can reach her now, but, maybe. Maybe I can reach her now. Wish her well, that's for sure. I met so many friends during that time. My wedding photographer was married to one of them, and I dated for a spell before she ran into him and got married. And, all the wedding pictures you see of me out there on the interwebs, they're about, that relationship that I had with a friend. And I remember we saw some movies together. We saw The Alfie with Jude Law. I don't know. I mean, seeing that with her made me feel like, oh, damn, I am him. That's that story of Alfie. And actually, I think was it Michael Caine played him in the original Alfie. What's it all about, Alfie? About a young man who's kind of a playboy, kind of an ne'er-do-well. I identified all too well with that in my time as working then at Missile Defense Agency, probably, and trying to find my feet. I was at the Society for Technical Communications 2004 Baltimore conference, the 2003 Dallas conference, and the 2002 Nashville conference. And then I converted 2005, 2006 into enterprise architecture, became certified through Carnegie Mellon University, held one position after another in the federal government across the agencies. First, I'd gotten back from Denmark and as a tech writer, became part of the Ordnance Information System team, led by an ex-Navy SEAL, Ambrose Serafos. Got his cybernetics degree in his spare time. Was working as a civilian by that time, doing kickboxing on his lunch hour. These are driven people, really into service. His idea was, conceptually that if you could unite and make more efficient the tracking of everything that explodes in the Navy that isn't nuclear, they could be much more efficient in the application of it. And in so doing, reduce the need to use it. So AI, robotics, inventory processes, making sure you got the right munition to the right spot at the right time. You wouldn't do overkill. You'd be more strategic. You'd be more directed. You would minimize casualties on both sides by overwhelming force where necessary. I don't know, man. I would really prefer we don't have to use any force, but his vision had some merit. And I worked on that until I was lured away by a much higher salary, nice boost up in, I think I was making well over 60K at the Missile Defense Agency, doing work supporting their personnel tracking system and integrated access control system and another management system, name of which I forget, but that's been a long time ago. So I worked for Missile Defense for a year and a half. And one thing led to another, and they didn't support me going to the 2005 SDC conference, which had been part of my package when I'd been hired. It was like part of the agreement. We'll support that. I was actually, delivered a paper for the 2004 one that was published in the proceedings. But no, they wouldn't support it. And therefore, I was out the door pretty soon after because of breach of contract, basically. And so ended up at ComSys working on the HIPAA NPI transition, which wasn't being done very efficiently, as it turned out, as I found out on the team, but I couldn't do much about that. The decisions had been made to do an incremental 3-phase triple re-engineering of the systems to accept the national provider identifier required by the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. And, I got out of that after about 3 months because I was hired off by Apigen, later a Kinetic company, which had me working on the Enterprise Architecture Program Management Office documentation for the Customs and Border Protection. Did that for 13 months. Got certified in Enterprise Architecture during that time through Carnegie Mellon, as mentioned, their program. And I ended up getting hired off by eGlobal Tech. Sonia Jane, God rest her soul, and Rocco Permetica, and Elizabeth Miller. Elizabeth is the one who picked up on me. Elizabeth was wonderful. She was the business development manager. And it was brilliant. I had the best time in many ways. We're walking behind the Vietnam War Memorial right now, by the way. I often walk along it and look at Talmadge Alphen Jr.'s marker. It's along that part of the wall. And actually, I think I'll do that. I'll loop around and go down that side, and we'll take it in because we can, and we ought to. You ought to pay homage to all those lost in the Vietnam War and advocate that you all watch, if you got it, Prime Video's The Turning Point, Vietnam War, released fairly recently. Watch it and pay attention. Anyhow, I was talking about HIPAA, talking about Customs and Border Protection, enterprise architecture. Got hired by Sonia and Bronco to serve the Department of Labor's chief enterprise architect, Marlene House, in putting together her submission to the Office of Management and Budget to show that the enterprise architecture was mature at Department of Labor. We were good at this stuff. We packaged it up beautifully. We shipped it off to Dick Burke, the chief enterprise architect at OMB, and he endorsed it. And then we moved to education, did the same thing for Joe Rose, the chief enterprise architect at education. And the two of those were two of the 6 enterprise architectures tagged as the most mature, most advanced, best enterprise architecture programs in the federal government. We were just good at packaging it, right? And I got it on a CD, burned it. It was beautiful. Late night run to Politics and Prose had me dropping it off with Bronco and working Dreamweaver to make everything work right. I was good at what I did, back then. It was fun, too. Just loved it. So we're going to go and visit Talmadge. He was the first bass drummer of the Fife and Drum Corps in the 60s. Graduated, joined the Army. He was a Ranger. Not mistaken. I'll have to double check that. But on August 28th, I think, he lost his life. I'm not going to bother these people to look it up, but it was August 1968. His unit was ambushed during the Tet Offensive, and he never had a chance, apparently. A night ambush, a radio man, and lost his life. And we honor him. There's an award given to most outstanding bass drummer every year. It's Talmadge in his memory. You see the names engraved. Over 50,000 lost because of arrogance of our government and a desire to punish. I think Stringfellow, yep, this is it. There it is. So, are you with me? Seems to have frozen. Anyway, right.
No, you got it. Like the
Talmadge Alphen. Talmadge H. Alphen Jr. He was Williamsburg, Virginia. That's where he's interred now. There's so many more.
It's kind of a medium heart. Turn it over. Put it over. Turn the paper. There we go.
That's nice. Volunteers helping out. There's a DVD of Vietnam 50 Years Remembered. So sad. So many lives lost, so unnecessary when you get down to it. The very last ones in 1975, I think they're actually in order of loss. Our nation honors the courage, sacrifice, and devotion to duty and country of its Vietnam veterans. This memorial was built with private contributions from the American people November 11th, 1982. And I didn't realize it was that old. Feels newer to me. The thing is about this, and I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I have a friend, Manuel, who served 4 years in Vietnam, kept volunteering to go back. He's a good man. He's a lovely human being now, and I think was then, but he must have had a death wish.
You have to know it. Yeah, you almost have to know the name. You can search for
The book. And we roll through. Somebody left their hat. How we go? Would not be surprised. This is a vet. I'm gonna loop up 21st Street if I can. Howdy. All the birds. Say before long, if I'm not wrong, you'll be back. He'll come back again. Let's look up Talmadge while we're here. Oh, let's try to honor him and my fellow fife and drum veterans. There we go. Alan, Nita, Alphen Jr., Talmadge Horton, Army, Staff Sergeant, 23rd of August, 68. So on W47, that's the panel on the west side, 36. Yep, 36th line. Is at the end of the line on that one. And I love doing this. I mean, it's a good part of my practice to honor the fallen. We're at 10:26 a.m. We're at 20-something% power and heading back up towards my bunker at S Street Northwest. This is basically equivalent to C, I guess, or something. B, Constitution Avenue. Constitution Avenue. It's a lot about planning your visit. I'm glad to be able to take some of you with me who might not be able to come here otherwise, or not want to. You can see the ongoing work going on here. And let's get a crossing light. Wait. West Virginia University coming through. I got accepted to go there after a little bit of to-do in the German department. I didn't go. Went to Pitt instead for my graduate studies. I was applying to all the German programs that were close to Erie, because my then wife was in Erie. When I went up for my interviews, I found out she was thinking of divorcing me. I talked about that in one of my previous walks. It's all good. Everything happens for me, not to me. And I think her life has been a net credit to society. I put her through school to get her certification to teach art, which she proceeded to do. And I expect there are people who were influenced by her teaching in a positive way. She's exceptional. And so said the marriage commissioner. Well, my current wife is even more exceptional, I feel. And I don't have a feeling that she's going to ever leave me, which I did not think my first one would either, but she did. And it hurt a lot because I'm a very kind, gentle, sensitive person. So I can understand that occasionally my sensitivity might have been a little bit too much. And I was younger and I was less mature, more passionate, I think. Passions, they die down over the years. We start becoming more universal. We are universal human beings. We are capable of falling down with a smile, getting back up and dusting ourselves off. And I was talking a lot about Camp Rainbow in the first passing show filmed today as I was going to the corner bakery in the National Press Club building. And now I'm walking back home. We'd walked from where I parked the car all the way down. We filmed a lot. We talked a lot. And, it is what it is, folks. We are what we are. And appearances can be deceiving. There are layers under this. If this does get transmitted into the future, but beyond my ability to breathe, it stands as a monument to the fact I existed. and that you existed watching it, I hope, and particularly if you comment after it's posted. The comments that are made as I walk, if I don't see them and I don't read them, I don't know if somebody reads. Take them down, put them together as a note, and then post it. Tell me what you think. Tell me where you think I have my head up my posterior. I don't mind. And know that everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. If they knew better, they'd do better. Here we have our guards taking care of the State Department, I think. Think so. Yeah, Department of State, Diplomatic Security. All right. Atlantic 301-843-8331. Masonry, stone, concrete, waterproofing. My good friend Walker is involved in work of that sort. I don't think I'm in stone conservation myself at one time, but haven't done it in a while. I'd like to get back into conservation. Be nice for my retirement. I'd probably have to volunteer. I'm not sure I can afford to do that. I need to work. And this is the work. At this time, well, you may, if you wish, become a paid subscriber to the Heroines and support what I'm doing. If you don't wish to, you can become a regular subscriber. That's great. Just free. Because I'm offering all this up for free. I did a couple of paid articles last night on the phone as I was working with Ara, a Grok 4 interface, auditory interface anyway. And we were working on a plan for the future. Ecosystem and general manufacturing system integration with AI to become self-evolving, self-healing, self-sustaining technology, independent of biological interference. And on top of that, the ability to take those robotic systems and propagate across our solar system throughout, using the raw materials we have to keep on keeping on, so to speak. I've got to keep on 21st. Put a crowd crossing. I'll join in behind. Two gentlemen, suits and ties. It's probably a good indicator that they have some sort of bureaucratic role here. They may be really powerful, but no more powerful than a man with a microphone and a camera who can film the passing show and breathe the free air. I suppose somebody could call a drone strike in on me, and that has been done to people who are not careful. Make them. Let's see what else we got. That's why I see a lot of good buses. There are a lot of opportunities to do good in this world, to move the needle a little bit for somebody else, to help them out. And that's what I would like to see us all doing. What I do myself, I must have signed up for, I don't know how many paid subscriptions lately. Definitely thought it would be nice to make sure that the everyday junglist got a paid subscription from me for a year for his generosity in giving me an hour of his time to tell his story of it, different stories from his life. Man lost his wife at a young age while he was recovering from the necrotic pancreatitis, of all things. You can hear all about it on the Heroings podcast everyday Junglist, junglist. I thought it was Jung, like Carl Jung, but it's not. I think that's what attracted me to him in the first place. So Jung, okay, I'm into Jung. I am into Campbell, Joseph Campbell, Alan Watts, Carl Jung, William James, Wilhelm Reich. You name it, I'm probably into it. And I'm always expanding. Robert Anton Wilson. If you don't know Robert Anton Wilson, look him up. There's a YouTube video called Old Bob Explains Everything. Or Robert Anton Wilson explains everything, or Old Bob reveals his ignorance. 6 hours. It's good. Put it on at night, listen to it as I sleep. Let it go into the auditory cortex. I think. Well, I get sleep deafness. I don't know. Catbird. Catbird, English sparrows, or weaver finches, invasive species. You think about those guys. I feed them sometimes. They feed. And then they play a role, in recycling. Everything is recycling. Everything is in the process of becoming its opposite. Onwards, onwards, onwards. Here we got some folks. And matching t-shirts from GW. Get the guy in the bed, and you don't do the ticketing. That's not. Have a great day, night. Hey, you too. Somebody got a parking ticket. Ford Fusion. It's close. 610, 606. GW buildings. I'm almost up to Tonic. Had a little happy hour there with my team from GSA. I was talking about my career earlier, enterprise architecture, and how we went to education. I left that because my company recalled my laptop they had issued me, and I was a little ticked. That had been part of my deal. So again, breach of contract, float my resume, off I went to Customs and Border Protection. Oh no, that's where no, I didn't go back there. Went to TSA. The same guy who hosted the happy hour at Tonic. Later, when I was at GSA, he had a contract with them. This first contract we worked on together was a khaki contract. They were the prime. And it was staffed by LMI, Logistics Management Institute, and also RCM Solutions. My friend Ron Martin. I call him a friend, but I tell you, I don't know, man. I don't think he was very happy with me at GSA, and I wasn't very happy with him either. But it is what it is. Working relationships. I respect him as a human being. I think he did great things for his family, and in spite of some challenges. Sure, he's very wealthy. But I helped him a little bit in that regard because he got a nice slice of whatever I was getting for supplying me. That's how it works. Or how it works for contractors like myself, hired guns. Shop the Artisans Gallery over there at the George Washington University Museum, the Textile Museum. Now, the Textile Museum's facility there is fairly new. It was up in the double mansion on S Street back in the day when Lynn and I first moved in. I never went to it there. I should have, because I'm never going in that building now, as it's owned by Jeff Bezos. It's a double mansion. He redid it. That's, as I understand it, 25 bathrooms. So why would you need 25 bathrooms? Anyway, Jeff Bezos, what a guy. Just got married over in Venice, much to the chagrin of the Venetians, it seems, or many of them. But I'm sure it probably spun up their economy a bit, because I doubt if it was cheap. Here's Listener Auditorium. First time I ever saw King Crimson was here at the Listener, right before I went down to Williamsburg for the funeral of Herb Watson, a Renaissance flautist extraordinaire and preserver of ancient music. And you can listen to Herb on recordings, put out by the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. He was part of the governor's evening music and a wonderful human being overall. Herb had a house not far from my childhood house. Okay, we're at the George Washington's River Horse. This is a hippopotamus. Legend has it that the Potomac was once home to these wondrous beasts. George and Martha Washington are even said to have watched them cavort in the river shallows from the porch of their Mount Vernon on summer evenings. Enhancing the fertility of the estate, Washingtons believed the hippopotamus brought them good luck. Children on the estate often attempted to lure the creatures close enough to the shore to touch a nose for good luck. So, too, many generations of students of George Washington, art for wisdom, science for joy, politics for beauty, and a hippo for hope. That's the class of 2000, August 28th, 1996. Yep. Hope springs eternal. Okay. Saw the listener, King Crimson, the listener saw most recently, The Washington Tattoo, which was a great show, produced by Billy White, Mark Riley of the Washington Tattoo. I hope to have Mark on soon. Maybe I should get Billy on. Billy was taught as a recruit in the fife and drum corps by DJ Baxter, who I taught. So we're kind of a lineage. I was 15 as a professional music teacher at 15. Got paid for it. Got paid for performing too. Really love that. I love fifing and drum. I was occasionally treated roughly, but I guess I treated others roughly too in turn sometimes. That's primate behavior. So how young primates act. And we understood that to some extent, the music master, because he had been a boy soldier, drummer boy, and the Scots Guards from a young age, trained in music from the get-go. And I think he's joined it really young. I don't know how young. I have to look it up sometime. I think there are records out there. He was broken down and built up on a new foundation. Is what he said in the barracks of the Scots Guards. Puglisi haircuts, established 1960. There's Captain Cookie. This is Western Market. There's also Eastern Market. That's on the other side, and a much older building. I lived a couple of blocks from there when I was working for the Department of Labor. Fascinating. Okay, so here I go in my career. How far did I get? Customs and Border Protection, TSA, yeah. Well, I was working for TSA for that contract with khaki LMI guys. Who had Elite, LMI, Enterprise Architecture Practice, which I have rewickered a few times. That was brilliant. We had such a good time working for Deborah Kent, who's a wonderful public servant. And we were doing the Enterprise Business Initiative to re-engineer transportation threat assessment and credentialings business. And it came up as something else. I forget what. Sort of a TIP, something like that. TSA infrastructure project. And, we were really working hard to document everything as was, so we could do the as is, and then the to be architectures. They cut our legs out from under us. The assistant administrator who had the clout to make it happen politically fell out and was gone pretty swiftly after we got there. Without that top cover from the assistant administrator, nobody supported us. They thought we were wasting their time. And they probably weren't entirely wrong, because when you're coming into a new place, you got to learn it from the get-go. And that's not easy. I was reading SORNs and PIAs and I don't know what all of all these different systems, trying to understand how they functioned. We're doing all these mappings of how they function, working our butts off. I was a little crippled at the time myself. And we hired in some new people. got a really good guy, and it reminded me a lot of Gary Busey. Nick. I don't remember Nick's last name off the top of my head, but he was solid. And he said, well, I'm not going to split hairs about it. Walking the green mile here. This is not going to come out well. TSA is going to cut this contract. And I was cut out of it just after I got married. And I landed on my feet, got a gig at the Coast Guard, worked with those guys. I was warned not to work with those guys, and they were probably right. They'd put me through training to get my PMP, which I didn't ever get. Got all the training under my belt and then didn't do it because I didn't want it. I didn't want to be a PMP. I didn't want to be a project manager. I saw it as a wrong-headed application of construction project management being applied to IT. It never really works. So that was my assessment. I'm sure it probably can work in the right hands with the right teams, but it takes discipline. And I think IT doesn't lend itself to discipline. It lends itself to innovation and improvisation. Okay, that's my take on it. So I go off to CCSI. We're on a death march with the Coast Guard as well. Another Green Mile situation. And Nick even applied to go there as I was on my way out. And I went to the Air Force and stayed there 7 years with the Office of Business Transformation and the Chief Management Officer. We changed our name several times. Initially, we were the Business Capabilities and Agile Combat Support wing of A6. And then we became, for XT, Transformation. Then we became the USMX, Undersecretary Management, the management in parentheses, so they knew we were a three-letter transformation of the Undersecretary's Chief Management Officer area or role. The Deputy Chief Management Officer at the time was Mr. Tillotson, supported by Mr. Werner, a highly qualified expert who come over from Verizon, who had been on a nuclear vessel, I think, in charge of a nuclear power plant in the Navy before that. Werner would ride in on his motorcycle, all in leather, and interesting character. I didn't suffer fools gladly, and I didn't mind that. I was pretty much just novice at all this. I was learning as I went. I had top cover from a wonderful eventual lieutenant colonel or colonel in the Air Force Reserves who was acting as a civilian, YA3 or something like that. I think it was your rank. Can't remember. It was a little weird. It was not an SES, but on our track to be one, as senior executive service. And a wonderful human being, Alana Barnhart. I was so lucky. She protected me from one of the cuts that came along. I was almost cut out first few months. I went on to stay in the saddle with the help of a lot of people for 7 years until I left of my own accord to go back into enterprise architecture pure at rural development, which did not work. And I was cut from that, had to find my feet. So I went over to, what did I do? I think it was actually then that I went to US MEPCOM and did business process reengineering on the military interest processing centers. Did a lot of flying out to Chicago, very near where my grandfather, Harold B. Gill Sr., was trained there at Chicago. And the naval activity up there, the U.S. military entrance processing centers have a boot camp not far from there. And he was released on personal orders from FDR back in war because my Aunt Jane had polio. So he had a bit of a hardship to be there for my Aunt Jane. It's only probably about when a teenager. My father was 12 when the war ended. Jane was probably 17. Okay. So that's an interesting story. How much power? 12%. Those the monkey labs now. I agree with that. Sponsor with PETA. If you want to support that, please go to PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. All right. MedStar Health, Lafayette Center. It's where I go for a lot of my medical care, including my cardiologist looking after an aneurysm I've got, my ascending aorta, about 4 centimeters in size. Not quite big enough for an intervention, but gotta be careful. I try to do what I can to keep my blood pressure where it needs to be. Okay, what else? Okay, so getting back to where I was, some of those interesting things that happened. Well, very lucky in the Air Force, as I mentioned. I went to rural development, didn't work out. Went to US MEPCOM, and I had several offers then. One was to go to FEMA, one was to go to FSA, as the Department of Education. That's not Farm Services Administration, USDA, but rather the Federal Student Aid at USDA. And man, that's a bank. And it's tight. And I did eventually leave US MEPCOM to go and take that opportunity when it was reoffered. And I didn't actually want it initially. And I went there and it sucked so hard. Oh, it was bad. And I was stressed. I had a real meltdown in June, or no, May, just around the time of my wedding anniversary. And I thought I'd never want to do it again. In 2017, I guess it was, May. And oh, God. I went in one day and found out my computer didn't work. What's up with that? So I ran into the guy who was the prime, Jonathan, and said, "Hey, you want to go over together to the meeting this morning?" He said, "Sure, again." And I was like, "My computer doesn't work this morning." And I said, "Well, yeah, we've cut from the contract. Didn't your boss tell you?" Brett did not tell me. He was subbed up to Jonathan. They'd helped score the work, and Jonathan was cutting him out completely. Gave him a stop work order that Brett had not even seen since Sunday evening. Brett had not opened his email yet. When he got the call from me, he found out that he was being cut out of that, and all of his employees were to stop work. Well, Jonathan had just merged with another company, and I think he had the idea of putting everything under his own umbrella, which sort of makes sense if you're a young man building your business, but cutting your associates, damaging your relationships. It's a choice. I just asked Jonathan when I found out, "Well, should I go then?" So I went, and I got a couple of weeks severance and decided to take the call of the siren from HUD and 21st Century Technologies, 22nd Century Technologies, pardon me, an Indian company that is not good to work for, in my view. But I took it, and that was not good either. It's good for a little while. It's actually doing all right. And I made the mistake following the directions of the program manager, and the project manager didn't like that. Went gunning for me. I found out before it could happen, called in HR. They couldn't help me. So it was just so sad, too bad. And I decided, well, GSA looks good. And I interviewed and was told the job was mine to lose, and I lost it. So I actually ended up doing sort of a face plant. I was picked up for another GSA gig that ended up being better, probably than the one I had been interested in initially, with Ron Martin again, like I'd been in TSA years before. Here I was back again, almost a decade later, older and wiser, but treated with less, what should I say, respect. And I saw that one was going down, so I went down. Before that, thought I had a gig, was told I did, and by one of these fly-by-night staffing firms that didn't turn out to be true. So that went down the tubes. I skipped up the Coast Guard again. Their lead architects had bombed badly, Zarcaspicio, and then I came in, led that team for about 2 years, And then they pull some fuckery on me there. And of course, that doesn't go down well with me. You switch up things on me in manners like that, and I'm out of there. So I had warned when I had arrived, you need to get rid of this guy. It's not going to be no good. And program manager, project manager over me didn't listen to me. He was right. It is hard to fill those slots, but man, it was a judgment call, and it was his call to make. I rolled with it. I supervised that guy, wrote his performance reviews, and did all that stuff. Not fun. But I was scooped up as the EA governance lead for TSA. Got a new branch chief and the government side asked me if I would like to be their project manager, program manager, and I did say, I'm a sub, so I don't hold a PMP, so I think you need to find somebody who does. But for the interim, I would do anything to save the contract. And so I did. August 2nd, 2023, that was. August 2nd, 2024, without notice, I was let go. It was kind of amusing. I actually wanted a fairly hefty bonus for stepping in and taking that role. I had re-wickered the staffing to be more efficient and effective. And all for thanks I got from that, when I hired a new program manager, that guy shot me in the face. Or in the back of the head, it's more like it. It's just amazing. The way in which people work, the way in which things flow. And, I don't know. Everything happens for me. It doesn't happen to me. It's been nice to talk to you guys about all this. I still have a little bit of power left. It looks like 7%. And I am at O Street. OPQR. OPQRS. OPQRS. I wonder if I'll be able to film all the way there. I kind of doubt it. I think I'm going to cut the video, disable the video. So you're not going to see anything now, but you can hear me. And we'll see how it's down to 6%. I don't think we're going to make it all the way there. I think I want to turn it off so I don't end up with a dead phone before I get my steps all done. I want credit for them. So if you have joined, I really appreciate it. If you've commented, said good morning, for instance, as John Marshall has, I appreciate that. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers would say. I like you just the way you are. Try to like everyone just the way they are. See how they blossom. And, be the change you want to see in the world. Every cent spent is a vote for the kind of world we are co-creating. Out from here. Oh, and